At UFC 260, Francis the Predator Ngannou faces off again with Stipe Miocic. Francis is the favorite to do what he does to all of his opponents. Vicious KO. Well, Stipe is trying to play spoiler and show the world why he is the greatest UFC heavyweight ever. What happens this time? The betting lines say the public believes in Francis' KO power and think that he'll win this fight, and pretty easily. I, for one, don't blame them. In all due respect to Stipe, I think Francis wins this matchup. Before we go any further, make sure to press the like and subscribe to the channel. We do many videos like this and a weekly podcast about breaking news in MMA and UFC. Let's take a look back at UFC 220 though. The undefeated monster Francis Ngannou looks to claim the undisputed heavyweight belt against Stipe Miocic. At this time, yes, Stipe was a champion, but it seemed like fans and the UFC brass disputed whether or not Stipe would continue being champion after facing Francis Ngannou. Going into the fight, Stipe exuded confidence and acknowledged how he was being written off. As we all know now, Stipe would grind out a decision win and solidify his name in the record books. But what are the takeaways from that fight that make me think Francis can win the rematch? 1. Stipe pressed the grappling game, not just a takedown, but clinching Francis in the open cage and against the fence. The idea here is to test Francis' cardio, which is most likely not as good as Stipe's. Keep in mind, Stipe isn't the best wrestler in the heavyweight division. He has a 34.72 takedown accuracy rate and averages just 1.92 per fight. What that means is that he doesn't really rely on his grappling game. Rather, he uses it when he needs it. 2. The way Francis reacts to grappling exchanges is pretty consistent across all his fights. Francis will immediately attempt to stuff it by looking for an over-under hook and using his strength advantage he has over his opponent. Fighters that are lesser in size than Francis probably wouldn't get away with this as often, but Francis can. He doesn't really need to completely sprawl, because when he's fresh, he is able to throw his opponent off and away from him. On the exit, he will also throw flurries of strikes to try to punish his opponent for trying to infight with him. What he will also do is when he's against the fence, Francis will use his left arm to grab the back of Stipe's neck and basically spin Stipe off of him. 3. Francis has parted ways with his former coach and has been training at Extreme Couture under the guidance of his coach, Eric Nixick. It seems like Francis has taken things to the next level and is training like a top UFC heavyweight. Let's hear from his coach about his time at the gym and his evolution.
So the first part of your question, he came out, started training at Extreme Couture on Curtis Blades 2. So he was, so it's the start of his win streak. But we as coaches at Extreme Couture just ran his team practices. He kept his own coaches, I believe, all the way up until maybe Kane. I can't remember, but Dewey Cooper's been working with him since he's been in Vegas, and then so when he started coming over to Couture's, him and I just kind of sparked it off and had a good relationship and decided that, we want to start working together. So now I think was might have been a little bit during Kane and then JDS.
Yeah. Okay. And as I mentioned, how much has his game maybe improved or changed under your style, and why won't the rematch go the same as the first fight?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things where you see the odds and you're like, man, like how is this guy favored when, the way Stipe beat him and the way Stipe's looked, quite frankly. I think he's looked amazing. So yeah, it's a tough thing, but it's the fashion, the way that Francis wins, the way he puts people out. I think the odds makers understand that just this guy touches you one time and it's lights out. But, during this duration that we've had him, he's really fallen in love with the grappling, the wrestling, the jiu-jitsu. It's something I think that he understands that we talked about after he lost to Stipe. He's like, man, I just know this is an area of improvement that I need to have. And, for us, I guess it's a good problem to have. He hasn't had to show it, So in that time frame, I bring Randy in every camp. So Randy's helped me out. He's helped a lot with his wrestling and ground game. The same knowledge that we all have through our ideology, essentially, at Extreme Couture, with the ground and pound, the way we like to do things. So, yeah, I mean, I could say it till I'm blue in the face. But, until we prove it, I understand people are going to have doubts and there's going to be critics out there, but there's nothing I can do about that. The guy's going out and winning in dominating fashion. So I'm proud of him. I know the work that he's putting in the gym, and I think it would show.
4. Even though Francis may overreach and miss a lot, he's able to connect with some of his strikes. In Francis's last 4 fights, all of which he won via KO, he landed 6, 9, 6, and 13 significant strikes. All it took was an average of 8 shots to beat his previous opponents. This trend isn't the same when it comes to facing Stipe though. Francis landed a total of 14 significant head strikes to Stipe in the first round. 5. Stipe tends to chase a KO or blitz in the early rounds. He was able to time a pole counter with a cross after Francis overextended, but it almost resulted in him getting KO'd. In one instance, after landing the counter, he started to blitz Francis and took a nasty shot to the temple that snapped his head way back. Going into this next fight, Stipe has felt Francis's power and doesn't want to take any extra shots. 6. An uppercut is Francis's go-to move, but he can't throw fast enough to counter a takedown attempt. He does overreach with them sometimes and can get predictable with his combinations and entries. Francis does catch Stipe with an uppercut multiple times when Stipe dips his head down to avoid the strike. A well-timed uppercut and dip by Stipe might create a perfect moment where we see a knockdown. 7. Francis has won a fight in the second round before, and that was his first bout against Curtis Blaydes. Francis would win at the end of the second round due to doctor stoppage. Curtis's eye and vision were severely impaired, and the doctor called the fight off. The main takeaway from this fight was that Francis in his early career was able to outlast a wrestler in the second round and inflict damage still. Francis has shown the world that he has the tools to win this rematch. He also has this renewed focus and grown a lot in the last 3 years. Stipe, on the other hand, just came off a trilogy fight where he got hit with 105 significant strikes from the 260-pound DC. I honestly don't think the 7 months between the DC fight and this bout at UFC 260 is enough time for Stipe to heal and get back to his optimal shape. That's why I think Francis wins this fight in the first round in the 3rd minute. Book it.
I'm gonna go with Stipe. I think Francis has gotten a lot better, but I also think that Stipe has gotten a lot better too. He seems like he's happier. Stipe was in a really weird spot with the UFC back in those days. He felt slighted. He wasn't getting any respect, and I think coming off of that really big performance in a win over someone, a future Hall of Famer and Daniel Cormier, I think that his confidence is as high as ever, and as long as Stipe can avoid that big shot, I think he gets it done again and pretty close to the same exact way. I think that he just grinds him out, makes him tired, and because we don't even really know if Francis has fixed his takedown defense. Like, who's tried or who's even made it close to an attempt? Like Curtis Blaydes, but Curtis Blaydes didn't really shoot. It was more panic shooting after getting clipped. So we don't even know if he's fixed his takedown defense at all because we haven't seen it.
Hopefully Francis wins. It'd be great if Francis wins.
Why?
I don't know. I really don't care. I'm just trying to give you a politically correct answer. So I really don't care who wins. So hopefully Francis wins. I don't know why. So I don't like none of them because they're in my division. So hopefully he wins. So yeah.
I see Stipe. The original game plan he had, it worked to perfection. He had to eat a couple heavy punches in that first round, but once he got to the hips, it was pretty much rinse and repeat. So why would he choose to deviate from what already has proven to work?
I could see maybe Stipe taking it again, but either, both are tremendous athletes, so it can go either way.
Then the last one, Stipe and Francis. Obviously, if that goes down a second time, do you see it going any differently? How do you think it goes down?
This is a tough one to call. Francis gave Stipe about all he could handle that first fight. But I mean, for Stipe Miocic to beat Daniel Cormier twice, that speaks for itself. And it's hard for me to think that I think so highly of Daniel Cormier that if you can beat him twice, you are the man. And I just think that Stipe kind of knows what to expect from Francis. What can Francis change in his game that Stipe already faced against him? I mean, maybe improve his gas tank, but I mean, he's still going to come out with he's going to have the same firepower. He's going to want to throw big strikes. The only way you could really throw Stipe off his game is if you maybe tried to wrestle him or do something. I think Stipe will know how to handle that fight. And I think by the time that they get around to having that fight, it's going to be back at a 30-foot octagon. And I think that'll benefit him a lot. But like I said, Daniel Cormier is the best fighter of all time. And if you can beat him twice, you're the man. So I got to go with Stipe in this one.
If you like the video, make sure to press a thumbs up. And if you want more, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more videos like this and a weekly podcast about breaking news in the UFC and MMA. Do you think Stipe will defend the title again and remain the baddest man on the planet? Or will Francis learn from his mistakes and finally conquer Cleveland's finest?